I'm Braden.
I'm Evan.
This is Ghost Stories and Stuff. The Doll with Lifelike Eyes by Ghost Beezer. My friend Chris, who knows that I like to write and therefore hear ghost stories, recently put me into contact with his mother, Jan. She had a story that she often told from her teenage years that he thought I might like to hear. What follows is her story, written in my own words after listening to her tell the tale, and following a brief Q&A. The Doll with Lifelike Eyes. One day, in the fall of 1981, Jan's father came home from work and told her that he had volunteered her for a job that weekend. There was a new family in the neighborhood, the Harrisons, and Mr. Harrison happened to work with Mr. Fowler, Jan's father. Mr. Harrison needed a babysitter. Come on, his father told her. It's about time you started earning your own money. After all, you don't think I'm paying for those concert tickets you want, do you? Jan gave a defeated sigh, realizing she had no choice but to agree. And that Friday afternoon, she rode her bike to meet the Harrisons at their house. Just a few blocks from her own, she found them sitting on the steps that led onto their front porch. Well, you must be Jan, said Mr. Harrison, as he stood up and shuffled his feet down 4 steps to meet her on the walkway. Mr. Harrison was younger than Jan had expected, and very tall with a kind face. Hi, Jan replied. The woman, still seated on the steps, who could only have been Mrs. Harrison, smiled and waved. Hi, Jan, I'm Sarah, she said. The Harrisons then led her on a tour of their home. It was a very big open house. Since the Harrisons had just moved in, most of the floors were wooden, with no rugs. The house was very cold and didn't have that lived-in feel to it. The only room that looked to offer any comfort was the living room, where a big, comfy-looking couch with a huge, fluffy cushion sat on top of a thick, plush rug. While he gave the grand tour of their empty house, Mr. Harrison took it upon himself to fill Jan in on the lives Mr. Harrison and himself. He told her of how he had recently been hired on for a new job in the area, alongside her father, and that they had just moved into the house recently, as she knew, and could plainly see. He said that they had moved to the neighborhood from their rural farmland, and while Akron was far from a big city, they were having a little bit of difficulty in adjusting to being around so many people all the time. Except Ashley. You'll meet her in a moment, our daughter. She's taken the change in environment much better than us, he told her to smile as they climbed the steps up to the second floor. In fact, he started, I should tell you that Ashley has a history of giving our babysitters a bit of trouble. We haven't gone out in a few years just because of it. However, she's been so happy and docile since moving here, we thought we'd give it a chance. Mr. Harrison saw the look on Jan's face after that, and laughed. Don't worry. It was never any serious trouble, and we're leaving you a number where we can be reached if anything happens. Everything will be fine, I promise. That's the last thing I want to hear. That is the last freaking thing I want to hear.
Why does he feel the need to say something like that?
If you leave me a number and say, oh, we haven't left in a couple years because of this, you probably should get rid of Ashley.
Yeah.
It sounds problematic, but I think Ashley's the doll.
Probably.
Not getting rid of a little girl. Should probably preference that.
They were now standing by a door at the end of the second floor hallway. Mr. Harrison knocked on the door. Ashley, honey, I'm coming in. Your babysitter, Jan, is here to meet you. He turned the knob and pushed the door open. The girl's bedroom, like the living room, was also much more comfortable, warm, and inviting than the rest of the house. In the center of the room was a huge white canopy bed, with pink sheer curtains pulled open and tied off to each corner post. At the head of the bed, a number of pink fluffy pillows huddled together beneath a large round window which shone through the floral patterned curtain hung in front of it. Another plush rug protected the floor from the bed's wooden feet. Sitting on the floor, at the edge of the rug, was a girl of about 8. She looked up and flashed a timid smile. "Hi, Daddy," she said. "Hey, Princess," Mr. Harrison responded. "Come over here and meet Jan." The girl got up slowly and walked towards Jan warily. In her arms, clutched tight to her chest, she held a doll. It had golden brown curls that fell to its shoulders, where it met a light blue baby doll dress. For what else do baby dolls wear? The doll's hair looked very much like the girl's own. Jan thought the eyes were unsettling, however. From the center of the doll's smooth porcelain face shone 2 brilliant green eyes, blazing like emeralds. Deep black pupils in the center of those crystalline eyes seemed to stare straight into her. They were very lifelike. Whoever had painted them had done a magnificent job. Jan pulled her eyes away from the doll and stuck out her hand towards the girl. "Nice to meet you, Ashley," she said. "I'm Jan."
And I'm Brayden. This is goodbye. I'll be out.
Yeah, that's right. At first, Ashley didn't respond. She stood there, clutching her doll. "I like your doll," Jan told her. After briefly studying her, Ashley slowly lifted her hand and gave Jan a tiny little handshake. "Her name is Emma," Ashley said. "She lived here first. I found her." The little girl then went and sat back down on the rug by her bed with Emma the doll.
No, absolutely not.
She lived here
Harrisons,
first.
y'all suck. Y'all suck as parents. You should have got rid of that thing. This might be a Coraline situation.
Gosh, she lived here first? That's such a weird thing to say. Because it's like, I mean, it's not a, I mean, yeah, it's a child saying it, but, I mean, the doll's not alive.
No,
But,
absolutely
yeah,
not.
I don't know.
Here's the thing about dolls. And I think this is where we're going to start seeing some unfortunate events. For one, you give any value to an inanimate object. You're clearly, it's like opening a door for a vampire. It's not going to be good. It's not going to turn out well. You've given her a name. We haven't seen any human-like treatment apart from just a child loving a doll or a toy.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We haven't seen her talking to it or
But
anything.
if it's sitting at the table with you, if it has a seat at your dining table or in your house, that's a no-no. That's grounds for, even if I just go bury her, go take her out back. Don't burn her, of course. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue on. She's also been a little shy since the move, as well as better behaved. Mr. Harrison told Jan, "I really don't think she'll give you any trouble. She'll most likely just play with Emma all night." What did she mean about Emma living here first? Jan asked Mr. Harrison. "The doll was here when we moved in," he replied. "The previous owner must have left it. I don't think she's put it down once since finding it." Mr. Harrison pulled the bedroom door open and stepped aside, gesturing for Jan to lead the way out. He closed the door behind him, leaving Ashley and Emma to play alone. I don't like that.
Nah.
I don't like that at all. I think the parents know. I think they know, and they're like, whoever we can get to stay, whenever we go on vacation, they're booking it, and they're like,
Yeah. Vacation. In quotes.
Yeah. The Harrisons gave Jan the number to the theater they would be at, and the name of the movie they were seeing, as well as the number to the restaurant they'd be eating dinner at afterwards. Jan followed them to the door as they got their coats prepared to leave. "One more thing," Mr. Harrison said, as he opened the door to leave. "Your father should have told you, but our TV was damaged in the move, and they haven't gotten a new one yet." "I brought a book," Jan told him. "Perfect," Mr. Harrison replied. "Well then, see you in a few hours." After the Harrisons left, Jan went to Ashley's room to tell her that she would be in the living room if she needed anything. Then she went downstairs, sat on the big fluffy red couch, and began reading her book. At around 8 o'clock, Jan warmed up dinner the Harrisons had prepared for her and their daughter. The girls ate together in almost complete silence, the younger one only speaking when spoken to. Jan started the meal trying to be friendly and conversational, but quickly abandoned the idea and just ate her food. Afterwards, she let the girl play with her doll in the living room until about 9, when Mr. Harrison had said it'd be time for her to go to bed. This, surprisingly, went easily though. The girl listened when she was told it was bedtime and followed Jan to the bedroom. She gave no complaints as she hopped up in the big bed. Jan tucked her in and set her doll beside her on the bed. She turned off the light and pulled the door shut behind her. Watching as the room grew darker and darker, the last thing to be swallowed up by the darkness was the doll's glowing green eyes on the edge of the bed. No, thank you.
I knew it was going
No,
down.
you can have, what's the girl's name? Not Emma. Emma's the name of the doll. Ashley. You can have Ashley. Jan went back downstairs to the living room and continued reading her book. The living room couch turned out to be more comfortable than she had ever hoped. Before long, she found herself beginning to doze off. She had probably fallen asleep for about 20 minutes when something startled her awake. Here we go. She could not say what it was. She had a feeling, however, that something was not right. She felt like she was being watched. She looked around the room, searching for anything out of the ordinary. Her book had fallen to the floor and was lying near the edge of the rug. Could that have been what woke her? She looked toward the adjoining entry hallway, where there was a clock next to the front door. But before she could check the time, something caught her eye on the stairs across the door. Something green flashed on the darkened stairway. It's freaking... Does Emma have opposing hands, fingers? The door is shut. Did she shut the door all the way?
What kind of strength does Emma have? There's no muscles in there. It's just plastic. It's a doll. Or like wood or something, I don't know. What can the doll really do to you, you know?
Quickly, she looked towards the stairs, and immediately her breath caught. Sitting on the steps, looking at her through the white wooden beams of the railing, were the fiery green eyes of Ashley's doll. Freaking knew it. It stared blankly at her, in an emotionless expression, yet with eyes so full of life. Jan tore her eyes away from the doll, afraid of what might happen if she looked at it any longer. She felt as if she were to stare in those hypnotic, soul-sucking eyes long enough, the doll would come to life, possibly at the expense of her own. She sat there, stiff with fright, holding her breath, watching the bottom of the stairs out the corner of her eye. She could feel the doll's eyes upon her. Then a thought came to her, one that might be the key to releasing her from the intense fear that now held her prisoner. Ashley has a history of giving our babysitters a bit of trouble, Mr. Harrison had said. After all, so far the night had been a breeze. No babysitting job was ever this easy. She's messing with me, Jan told herself, and gathered up the courage to stand. Trembling, she turned to face the stairs. As she started towards the doll, Jan could swear the eyes were following her. As she got closer, the angle of her vision occasionally caused the doll's head to be hidden behind one of the vertical beams on the railing. When it emerged in the space of the other side, it seemed to Jan that the head had turned, ever so slightly, as if to keep her in its gaze. Frick that crap. Absolutely not. I'd be like, well, Ashley, I won't be here when you wake up. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know if you're seeing things. So it's like if the head's barely moving, it's like you can't tell if you're the problem or if it's like actually real. That's the scary part. When she arrived at the bottom of the stair, however, the doll's eyes were still focused towards the living room. Jan took a deep breath, then sprinted up the steps, snatching up the doll as she passed it.
Bad idea.
That's a bold
Bad
move.
idea.
My
Why would
gosh.
you touch that?
Oh, right. She held the doll out in front of her, eyes forward. As she marched down the hall towards Ashley's door, she stopped outside and listened. Silence. No light shone from underneath the door either. Slowly, gently, she pushed the door open, just enough to fit through and to illuminate the room enough to see her way. Ashley was lying in her bed asleep, or at least pretending to be. No, okay, this is going downhill fast. Jan crept quietly towards the bed, making sure not to wake the girl, then placed the doll on the bed next to her, face down. Gracefully, she slid out of the room and shut the door behind her. She felt a sense of relief as she galloped down the steps and back into the living room, where, after taking a moment to collect herself, she took up a seat on the couch and resumed her reading. She was still a bit frightened, but it was a far cry from the terror she had felt earlier. Moments ticked by as she continued reading, page after page. She grew more assured by the minute that her assumption was correct. Ashley was just messing with her. She glanced up towards the clock. 10:15. The Harrisons said they would be home between 11 and 12 o'clock. One more hour, she told herself, and turned another page. Then she heard a noise upon the stairs. Thump. Her head snapped up from her book, and her ears tuned in. Thump, thumpa, thumpa, thump, thump. It's scary, but kind of funny, too.
Oh my frig, dude. I can just imagine that it's Emma. The first thump is hitting the ground, then she walks to the door and starts hitting, like, just allowing her head just to hit, like, it's freaking amazing.
Maybe it's Mike.
It might be Mike, you're right. He's trying, Morse code.
Emma the doll came tumbling down the steps, head over heels, before coming to rest in a corner at the bottom of the landing, seated upright, staring directly at her. Again, Jan found herself locked in a terrible emerald gaze. Once more, she tore her eyes away from that green hell. She forced herself to focus, to fight through the fear. She honed in her hearing, listening intently for any sound at the top of the stairs. She prayed to hear the footsteps of a little girl retreating to her room, and the squeal and click of a door as it opened and closed, but she heard nothing. Only a deathly silence so deep it could only be duplicated in the vacuum of space. She was alone. It was only her and the doll.
The bravery of the girl should be commended. For once more, she pulled herself up and faced the dreadful doll. "You don't scare me," she lied, as she approached the porcelain puppet. So at least we know what she's made of now.
Yeah, or what people perceive it to be made of, you know? Who knows?
Maybe she's afraid of porcelain.
Well, she did pick it up earlier, so I guess that does confirm it. But yeah.
But she's talking to it, so it's in her freaking dome.
Yeah.
It's in her dome. It's where this is her downfall.
Like, you don't tell an inanimate well, it's obviously animate now. But you don't tell an object, "You don't scare me," if it doesn't scare you. You just don't talk to it, because, like, why would you talk to it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Slowly, she reached her hand out to seize the doll, apprehensive with fear at the thought that at any moment it would spring to life and seize her instead. She could see herself reflected in the doll's deep green eyes. Like in the waters of some ancient and mysterious lake, she watched as her reflection reached beyond the placid emerald surface of those cold staring eyes. She snatched up the doll once more. Again, she tore off up the steps. Eyes forward, dead set on her destination, the doll had a warmth to it, and she reached Ashley's bedroom door. She thought she could feel it squirming in her hand. Frick that crap, dude. It's just your imagination, she told herself. You're doing this to yourself. She quietly pried the door open and slipped inside. As she placed the doll on the bed, Ashley began to stir beneath her covers. Jan watched as her tiny little arm slid out from beneath the sheets, gathered up the doll, and pulled it underneath the blankets with her. Absolutely not. I'm not. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, Jan heard a tiny voice saying from underneath the blankets. Jan reached out and patted the little girl, all huddled up in her covers. You're welcome, she said, while in her head thinking, I know you're messing with me, you little snot.
Whoa, chill,
So
Jan,
true.
chill.
Put her in her place. Put her in her freaking place. If you say thank you after returning a doll the second time, if I did that whenever I was a kid, I would get beat profusely.
Because you had a doll?
Oh, yes. Moving on. This time, after she made her way out of the bedroom, she went to the stairs and sat down on the top step. This is where you mess up. She would wait until Ashley tried to sneak out the next time, and then she would catch her in the act. Time ticked by once more. As she sat in silence, she couldn't say how long she'd sat at the top of those steps. I should have brought my book, she told herself. You should have left. You should have left. You should have said, see you later, I'm going to move. I'm going to burn my fingerprints. And you did.
Just like Ashley's parents did.
Oh, exactly. Oh my gosh, you're right.
They're not coming
You're right. Why would you give them... We'll get to that towards the end. I have thoughts. At first, she was certain that Ashley was to blame. That she was the culprit behind this nonsense. But the longer she sat...
Moving on.
That's crazy.
I wasn't going to say anything with it. You just
Well, freaking... My mouth is dry. Anyway. But the longer she sat there, in the quiet, dimly lit hallway, the more she began to doubt herself. This was a pretty creepy house, after all. Old, drafty, empty. It had just been lived in for a while, she thought. The Harrisons just need to breathe some life into it. And then something stole the breath from her. The silence in which she had been enveloped was suddenly disturbed. Clack.
Clack.
Clack. Noise came from her left, by Ashley's bedroom. That's pretty good. She turned to see the door to Ashley's bedroom slowly opening. She had been waiting for it to happen. She planned to hide and surprise the little girl. But the sound of the door squealing as it opened so slowly had unsettled her. She sat staring as the darkness beyond the doorway grew steadily larger. Then, a shape began to form, low to the ground, near the floor. What is that? She asked herself, trembling. As she stared on, the door opened wide enough that the shape was able to catch some of the light from the hallway, and two bright green eyes flared out of the darkness. Jan swallowed hard, and her mouth dropped open. Still, she tried to tell herself that Ashley was doing it. But as the door opened further, and more light crept in, she could see the shape of the girl, still in bed, lying beneath the covers. In the open doorway to the bedroom, standing on its two legs, was Emma the doll. Yep. Why wait? Why wait for that?
Yeah. Who could have guessed?
For real. I don't think the parents are coming back. Let me just preference that. I don't think they're coming back.
Jan's eyes were nearly bulging out of her head. What should she do? Every instinct had told her to fly down those steps and out the front door, jump onto her bike and pedal home with all the fury she could muster. But, as I said before, the bravery... I'm hungry,
For real.
But, as I said before, the bravery of the girl should be commended. She stood, preparing herself to face the possessed doll. She clenched her fist and took her first step towards the haunting, glowing green orbs that peered at her from out of the little girl's bedroom. As she took her second step towards the room, There came a sudden explosion of noise on her left, followed by a door being flung open and nearly hitting her. Jan jumped to the right, slamming into the hallway wall, and turned to see a little girl standing in the lit doorway of the bathroom. Both girls screamed in fright from the surprise they had given each other, but almost immediately, Jan snatched Ashley up by the arm and turned to run for the stairs, pulling the girl behind her. Before descending the stairs, she cast a quick glance towards the girl's bedroom. The door was now completely ajar. Emma the doll had moved a step or two closer, it seemed, standing in the hallway, just in front of the open doorway. Behind the doll, in the darkness of the bedroom, Jan could make out the shape of a little girl, silhouetted in the dim light from the circular window, sitting up in Ashley's bed. It seemed to Jan that she had her arms held out in front of her, as if she were pleading to be picked up.
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely
Dude, I had
not.
goosebumps when I read that.
I had
Oh
a
my
chill go
gosh.
down my spine, bro. Frick. Wow. So, wait a minute. So,
I'm a little confused,
all right.
but like...
all right, check this out. So, what we see supposedly is whenever Jan went to return the doll the second time, it wasn't Ashley
Oh.
underneath the cover because she was in the bathroom.
Oh
And that thing said, "Thank you."
dude.
I don't like that.
No.
I don't like that at all. If I were Jan and I saw both those things, I would begin a good intention of taking Ashley with me, but if that thing got closer, I would low-key not even bodyguard, what is it called? Body shield Ashley and have it. Boom. She's young. There's always another girl to be babysat for. And I dip. I would have been long gone before this were to ever go down.
Jan turned back towards the steps, and may or may not have touched a single one on the way down.
Amen. Get the fat out of there.
Hop down the whole
Swan dive.
staircase. Yeah. For the rest of the night, Jan and Ashley sat on the front steps, waiting for Mr. and Mrs. Harrison to arrive. Ashley whined and asked for her doll, but Jan simply told her no. At one point, however, Jan did go back into the house to get a blanket for Ashley, who was dressed only in her little white nightgown. Big mistake.
I don't like that at all.
You already got out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be on the front porch. I'd be down the street,
I'm gonna
maybe.
ET this stuff right here.
When she did, she thought she could hear the sound of a little girl giggling coming from the upstairs bedroom. And that's why you don't go back inside.
The Harrisons arrived about a half hour later to find Jan and their daughter wrapped in a blanket and sitting on the front porch. Jan told them what happened and apologized repeatedly. The Harrisons could clearly see how shaken she was and actually was not very upset at all. In fact, they seemed to not even be surprised. Well, tops to them for coming back. I would have gotten out of there. Because that's your daughter and it's attached to that thing? Bye. I can always have another daughter.
I mean, maybe that thing and their daughter is connected somehow. So they kind of have to live with it.
Maybe they moved back to an old house to forget of a lost child. Mr. Harrison went into the house and checked the bedroom and the rest of the house, while Jan, Ashley, and Mrs. Harrison remained on the front steps. After about 15 minutes, Mr. Harrison returned. "All clear," he said. Jan handed Ashley off to Mrs. Harrison as she stood up. "I'd rather not go back in there," she said. So Mr. Harrison went in, collected Jan's book and other possessions she had brought, and then drove her home. That wasn't the last time she saw the doll, however.
Oh no.
Frick. I told you! He freaking touched it. Freaking touched that doll.
Yeah.
Spoke to it. You're done. You're done. About a week or two after the incident at the Harrisons' place, Jan was fixing herself an after-school snack when her father came home from work. "Boy, Jan," he said, "I don't know what you said about the Harrisons, but you must have really shaken them up. Jan was confused. What do you mean? Well, all last week after you worked for him, Scott Harrison came into work looking like hell. It was clear he hadn't been sleeping much, and he was late just about every day. Jan gave her father back a blank stare. She wasn't sure if she was surprised or not. Did he say anything about, she began, ghosts? Her father finished for her. No, not quite. Just the strange things that had been happening around the house. He didn't say much, actually. He seemed subdued. Not like his usual self. Man, your story must have really gotten to him. It's not a story, Dad. I didn't make it up. Well, either way, I'd leave the Harrisons off of your babysitting resume, he said, laughing. Then again, who knows if anyone will ever hear from him again anyway.
I agree with that.
Amen. What do you mean they're shaken up? That thing... Okay, whatever. Jan began to walk away, but stopped when she heard the last part. What do you mean? She asked. Well, Scott hasn't shown up for work the last 2 days. We tried calling him, but there's never an answer. Rick from the office even went by the house. He said everything was gone. Like, they just upped and vanished. A shiver ran down Jan's spine as the vision of the small shadow reaching out to her from Ashley's bed flashed through her mind. The next day, Jan rode her bike to school. Her father tried to make her reconsider, as it was a dark, cold, and rainy day. It will start storming again any minute now, Jan, he told her. You don't want to get caught in that. It didn't matter, though. She had to see for herself. She pedaled down the slick street, splashing through puddles as she made her way towards the Harrison house.
As she pulled up in front of the house, the rain again began to fall. She looked upon the house with a feeling of dread. She didn't remember the outside of the structure looking so ominous. Sure, the inside was cold and dark and lonely, but from the outside, the house had seemed inviting enough. Now, with a backdrop of black, rolling storm clouds and the rumble of distant thunder, the house seemed a place for the damned. She studied the house for a moment, her eyes eventually settling on the circular window on the second floor. Oh, here we go.
No, thank you.
Gosh, dude. The floral patterned curtains hung limp in front of the window, and for a moment she thought she saw them move. In the center of the window, where the curtains met, there was a small black gap between the fabrics, a porthole into the girl's bedroom. She found herself drawn to the tiny opening in the curtains, staring, her mind going blank, focused only on the blackness. Crack boom! I don't know what else to say.
You should keep that in. That would be a lot of fun. You should.
Suddenly, from somewhere close behind her, the sky was torn open with a deafening clap of thunder, as a spear of white fire stabbed downward at the earth. The tremendous boom snapped her out of her daze, while the bright flash of light lit up the world like a lantern. In the window, out of the darkness in which her gaze had been ensnared, 2 green orbs briefly glinted in the reflection from the lightning. Her mouth dropped as the small gap in the curtains slowly swung closed. It took her a moment to pull herself together. She had spent the last week and a half trying to convince herself that what she had witnessed that night at the Harrisons had somehow been her imagination. Now, stunned in disbelief, she knew there was no denying it. Not long after, she moved to Pittsburgh with her father, and has never set eyes on the house or the doll since. As for Scott and Sarah Harrison, nobody quite knows what happened to them. For all intents and purposes, they just seemed to vanish into thin air, with no one in the area ever hearing from or of them again. A search of the house turned up nothing. It was completely empty, with the exception of one green-eyed doll with lifelike eyes.
So the doll's still there.
Apparently.
What the freak?
I think the Harrisons did the same thing that
The previous owners did.
previous owners, yeah. And then they left the doll behind. So I guess it's waiting there to bother somebody else.
Mm.
I think I mean, best case, the Harrisons just left town. And
I think something terrible happened to them. I know that's
worst
like,
case, yeah.
yeah. I think something happened to the parents, but not to. I think Sarah and Scott, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
But little Ashley, she'll live on.
Yeah, Ashley spent time with the doll, and the doll never like hurt her or did anything that we know of. I think the doll is kind of protective of its owner.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jan came over, scared her out. It supposedly drove her parents mad.
If Scott already knew about the doll towards the bottom of the story, it says that he shows up and he's been losing sleep.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, that's not like Scott at all. But I'm like, if you already know, I'm a little confused by that, or maybe he didn't see it at all. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
When the Harrisons show up to their house at night, when Jan and Ashley are sitting outside, Jan tells them about everything that happened, and it says he's not surprised by it. But then the symptoms start showing that he's going mad and losing sleep. I feel like he knew something was up, but then after Jan left, that's when things really went downhill.
I really enjoyed the story. It was well written, tops to Ghost Beezer. I just wanted more. I wanted more from the shadowy figure. It's good, and it freaking keeps you it trembles your timbers. You know what I'm saying? But it's I don't know. I wanted more. I wanted not even seeing. Well, she saw the eyes of the doll whenever the lightning flashed, but I wanted to see that little shadow kind of move the curtain, perhaps. Just wanted more of that. But what a twist! What a twist to add some paranormal stuff in there. It's really cool.
What's up with dolls and the paranormal?
I think just the fact that they resemble people, but I think in terms of the paranormal, you have something that looks like a person, but there's nothing in it. Mm-hmm. Same thing that it kind of goes along the lines of voodooism.
Yeah.
To where it's I'm going to give this a name. It could be the name of someone who you know. Which I don't recommend. Don't do it. Don't do that.
Please don't do this.
And then they would take little pokes or little knitting needles.
Yeah.
And they would poke it and stuff. And so I think that could be a big deal. I don't know. I think they're just perceptible.
We know what humans can do, physically, and if something resembles a human, and it can move around and stuff. Yeah, it's a scary thing.
It's a creepy thing. For it to open a door.
It did fall down the steps, though. That was pretty funny.
It did. Freaking shout out to my grandma. My grandma, she has these they're called, or they were considered quote unquote praying dolls, where it's she would have them in the guest bedroom, or she had one in her kitchen for a while, and they're small enough that they look like children, but one of them that looks up in a wall. The way that it was postured, it's on a platform thing that's holding it up. It would face the wall with its wrists sewn to the face. During Halloween, me and my dad and my brother, we'd wait for everyone else to get out of the house, and then we would move it. We'd move it into where for instance, I'd move it to my parents' bedroom, and they'd see it, and they'd be like, "Absolutely not, Braden. We know you did this." But just the idea of something that's not supposed to be somewhere, it just, especially while you're away. If you're home alone and something just shifts, it could be anything. It could be freaking gravity.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you just come just what's the closest thing around me that looks like that appears to be a person? I don't stay around long enough to find out. Wait till someone else gets home. That way it messes with them and not you.